What's up, guys? Today I'm going to show you how to frame a wall in the basement. Let's get started. Aren't you moving? This is so hard. I'm trying to help. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. Clear the area that you're going to be working in. We're putting up this wall today, so we need to move these boards, make sure we've got plenty of space because we're going to be building it right there before we lift it up, put it in place. Highly recommend gloves if you don't want to get slivers like me, and this will save you a lot of trouble down the road. You're going to want to make sure that you've got anchor points in the ceiling so that you can toe in the wall, and we're going to need to add one right there. You want them about every 16 inches, and we're going to need to add another one on the side here and right here on the other side. If you look at the wall that we've already completed, you'll see that we've done just that on both of the edges so that we've got a place to put in the nails to make sure that it's secure into the ceiling. You're going to want to get yourself one of these miter saws. You can get them at Home Depot, Lowe's, wherever. Going to be a lifesaver in cutting all this wood. You're going to draw a lot of power, so you want to make sure that whatever you're plugging it into is on its own circuit, that there's nothing else plugged into it, because you'll probably blow a breaker if you plug too many things into the same thing this is going into. So make sure to do that. We're going to need a tool belt. We've got hammer, framing hammer specifically. We've got pencils to write on wood. We've got a ruler, bunch of pockets for nails, etc. This is going to help a lot to make sure you don't have to go back and forth to grab your stuff. When dealing with insulation, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you have the proper protection because this stuff is nasty. You're going to want to make sure you've got a mask, gloves, and eye protection. You don't want to get this stuff into your lungs. You don't want to get this stuff into your eyes. And for me in particular, I'm allergic, terribly allergic to this stuff. So you want to make sure that you are taking the necessary precautions. What we're going to want to do is make sure that we find in here where the board is that we can tie into, coming straight across. And so we want to properly measure how long of a board that we need to cut. You're going to want to get yourself a triangle. Oh, this is going to save you a lot of time too. Basically, lay these down and I'll line them up. I'm going to measure out 21 inches. Get a pencil. Gonna mark just shy of 21. Gonna get your triangle. And you're just gonna draw a line straight across. Now you know exactly where to make your cuts so that they are square and straight. Make sure you've got eye protection for this next step too, for sure. Grab your board, put it in, line it up, take a step back, cut on the inside. Got yourself a board. Rinse and repeat because we need a couple of these. Let's go see if they fit. All right. Take your board, put it about in the middle where we need it. Just gonna check if it fits. It does, just like that. Basically couldn't be more perfect. So now what we need to do is we need to toe it in. Make sure that this stays put. Should be good to go. So you grab your framing hammer. There's a couple ways you can do this. 3-inch nail is going to go through that. You're going to need 2 nails per wood board that you do. Now you do need to do it on the underside too, which is a little trickier. Right here, we've got a vent, so that's going to be in my way. We've got all this insulation. And then we've got some other pipes that you probably can't see on camera. So I'm gonna see if I can get some kind of angle to be able to knock that sucker in. All right, now I can try and show you now that it's done. Kind of destroyed some of this here, but you can see back in there's a nail. This board isn't going anywhere. On the other side, similarly in the back, my nails right there. These two right here. You might be wondering, what do I do with really janky pieces like this? I don't know if you can see how warped this thing is, how broken it is on the side. And we've got like 4 pairs of nails going into it. And the answer is, it's perfect for stuff like this where you have to have short pieces, because although the entire board is pretty morphed, you can take, 20 inches off this without seeing a lot of that. And if you put it up in the ceiling, it's not really going to be an issue. It's not supporting anything. It's really just there to provide an anchor point for a wall or an anchor point for drywall. And so cutting it to sizes like this is a perfect use case for warped wood like this. You don't want to use this as your main studs going up and down the walls, but for small stuff, it's perfect. So let's go ahead and do that. We need another 21 inches here. And this one's already measured, so we can just put it right on top. Get the exact same length on this. Cut it to size. Be ready to go. Now when you got stuff hanging off the edge like this, you can use another board to hold it to the right height so that your cuts are even. If you have stuff like this and you're working along where it's not going to fit, you can go ahead and hammer it in half the way, then put up your board, smack it in the rest of the way. Or in this case, you can miss completely. That'll happen some too. On to the next one. All right, now we've got our toe-in points, our anchors in the ceiling. You can see we've got one on the edge. We added this one in the middle, and I definitely should have probably got my ruler out for that because I eyeballed it and it's off center, but it will work. And we've got one here on the end. You might wonder, why do we need the ones on the end? And it's not so much necessarily for the wall, because you can tie in the wall to the other ends of the wall here. But when you're putting the drywall up, you need something to anchor it in on the edges. You can see there and there. Now the edge work is important because it's at the very corner. Obviously when we're putting up drywall, we can toe it into each of these. But at the very end of the wall, there's nothing there. So we had to add in the support ourselves. And so now that we've got this set up, we just need to measure how long of the boards that we're going to need. One 2x4 is 8 feet, and so this is going to require at least 2, but let's find out how many. About 136 and a fourth. So for the bottom, we're going to need a couple of pressure-treated wood 2x4s, so let's go grab those real quick. And you want to inspect them, make sure that they are not warped too bad. Some wood, most wood is going to be warped to some degree. This one's good. What we're going to do is we are going to cut this to size, and that will allow us to match the 2 that we're going to need on the top. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. After I went to go and fit these, they were just too long, so we are going to take off the tiniest little bit. Pretty close to me. Alright, as you can see, we've got these in. They do fit. That's exactly what we want. So now we're going to start building out our wall. And the way we do that is by building it in the position that we're going to flip it up into. So down here, we're going to have this board about that. about that. Then we're going to need to measure the distance from the bottom floor to the ceiling. And we need to account for the 2x4s that are going in. So for instance, the 2x4 is actually only about 1.5 inches. So we need to account for 1 on the base plate. We need to go up to the ceiling. And on the ceiling side, you're going to put 2. I'll show you that in a second. At the top here, we are sitting at just shy of 92 inches. And we want to check them all because you would think that your floor and your ceiling match everywhere. They definitely do not. So what we need to do is subtract 4.5 inches from 92 1/4 because all 3 boards, we're going to have the 2 top boards like this. And they're going to go right up against the ceiling. And you've got the 1 bottom board. You put all that together, it's 4.5 inches. So 92 1/4 minus 4.5. What is that? 87 and some change. Once we have that figured out, we're going to put our boards in after cutting them. And then we're going to nail everything together and we should have a wall. Now to determine which boards, or rather how many we need to go vertical, we need to mark it off every 16 inches. In the US, this is pretty traditional. It depends on your building code in your area. But what we want to do is we want to offset these boards because we have a full 2x4 at the bottom here. And we have a cut piece over there. On the top side, we want to invert it so that we have the full piece going this way initially and the cut piece this way. This will ensure that we have integrity of the wall. It'll be really strong. And then we flip it once more on the top side. So, make sure all of our pieces are going to fit in here. Which they do with some clearance, which is awesome. You can actually just do this. We've got our 16 here. 32 and 48. And we'll continue on, but the point is, you're going to take your triangle out. You're going to draw a line on each of these marks, and this will ensure that we have correct markings. Then you're going to take your X, and it is going to be on the outside from where your first X was. So you can see here, X, we come to 16 inches, and on the other side, we start the next 2x4. We come here, the other side of the next 2x4. And you continue all the way down until you're done. Now when you get to the end here, you're not gonna have a full 16 inches, and that's okay. What we're going to do is you're going to put one on the very end, inside of 16 inches. This might only be a couple inches, this might be 10, it might be the full 16, it just depends. Broke my pencil. That's why you got backups. Though a mechanical pencil is probably not the best backup to have, because I just broke that one too. Alright, next step is to count the X's. This is the number of 2x4s that we're going to need. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we need 10 2x4s. We're going to cut them all to the length that we need to meet floor to ceiling. Put them in place, start nailing them in. Alright, 10 boards. Took a while because I wanted to make sure that none of these boards that we're putting in this wall were super warped, and I had to go toss out a bunch that were super warped. Let's get one long enough to do the whole thing. Make sure that they are all together this way as well. And then we need to cut them all to 87 3/4, and we're going to cut just inside so that we have a bit of leeway. Let's go ahead and get our ruler again, and then you can do straight across. And now you've got a straight line for all your boards. So basically we're going to be chopping off 6 inches, give or take, from each board. And we'll have our 2x4s ready for the vertical spots. these are our 2x4s, so we'll just take one. And what you want to look for on these 2x4s is what's called the crowning. This is where the board will kind of crown up or crown down when it's vertical like this. So you can look down on this one. We can see that there's a slight crown this way. And so what you want to do is make sure that all your boards are crowned in the same direction. This way when you put 2x4 in, when you put drywall in, you don't have your wall kind of doing this. It's all uniform and going one way. So we're going to have all the crowns be up for simplicity. Kind of looks like a wall now, right? So all that's left is to hammer it in. That's the fun part. We're going to have two 3-inch screws, nails on every single 2x4, top and bottom. You're going to line up those X's and hammer them in. The first is usually the hardest because there's nothing to hold the rest of the frame together. Once you get one or two connected, it starts to stabilize. You can just go to town. So let's get started. All right, we've got the bottom done. Now we need to rinse and repeat on the top. Now we just need to put in the top board and we're good to go. Now this one you don't need 2 screws in every 2x4. Basically just want one every other to make sure that it's held in place. So let's do it. There you have it. We have a completed wall. So the fun part now is putting it up, making sure that it fits. Now normally you're going to want another buddy with you. It's a small enough wall I should be able to, but they can be pretty heavy. So if it's a really long wall or it's a really heavy wall, make sure to grab an extra set of hands. And you want to watch out for what you're going to hit on the way up. So as we're tilting this up, first thing that I see here is potentially snagging this light bulb. We got a smoke detector. And so on the way up, we just want to make sure that we're watching out so that we don't hit those. We should be okay, but we're about to find out. And the other thing that you'll want to do before you put up your wall is make sure that you sweep and get any debris out from underneath where your wall is going to sit, because you want to make sure you have a really nice and flush fitting when you flip the wall up. So let me go grab the broom real quick. There was a nail back there that would have been hard to squeeze in. You may struggle to find some leverage, and so I went ahead and shoved my hammer under there. See if that's enough to get my fingers under. Boo, lift with your legs. What are you doing on the wrong side of the wall? In reality, I know y'all are gonna light me up in the comments, so I'm just getting ahead of that. You want to make sure that your bottom end is not too far in, because if this has a hard time fitting, you may never get it back out. So I'm just pulling the back end out right now. Just to give myself ample room. You can always knock something in. A little harder to pull it out. This is usually the part where we sit and think for a spell on what we did wrong. The trouble is, a lot of the time, where you want it to go may be a certain distance top to bottom, but a part that your builder put in before it is not. So your options are to whack it in place, or pull it down, cut some things, sand some things, and try again. Every other wall we've put up in the basement so far, we've just whacked into place. See, that usually does an okay job. Might not look like it, but this is progress. We've got a gap now. But we need so much more. Woo! Aren't you moving? This is so hard. Trying to help. Ladies and gentlemen, we've done it. Almost there, folks. Second to last thing that we're going to do, verify that our wall is still where we want it. It is. So we need to now toe in the wall to the ceiling. You want to do the ceiling first because once you punch a nail through concrete, it's not moving. So you start here, make sure it's lined up. Concrete comes last. So with these, you can use these smaller nails here. You're going to get an angle. I usually like to start from the top, go down in. That's in there. You can also use the bigger nails depending on what you need, what angle you need. We're going to do this from the other side. Rinse and repeat till it's done. All right, now that we've got our line towed in at the top, we need to do the same at the bottom. Now the bottom's a little different. You can't just hammer this in. Well, you could. It's a pain in the butt. What you're gonna wanna do instead is buy yourself a nice tool to help you get the job done. This is a Ramset nail gun. And what it does is you take one of these. I'm not going to actually show it because I like to do this part at the very end when I know that I am completely finished with the wall. Because once you put one of these suckers in there, it's not going anywhere. But it takes these 3.5 inch nails. You put it in the front of the gun until it has the stopper there, the washer to stop it. You load in one of these cartridges here. Right there, into the cartridge. You close the gun, you press it down onto the wood, and you pull the trigger. You're gonna want eye and ear protection for this, but it will slice right through your bottom boards and the concrete like butter. And the finished product will look something like this. It'll punch a hole right through those bottom boards, put it right into the concrete. Once that's in, job complete. So there you have it. How to frame a wall in a basement or anywhere. Very similar kind of thing. This took me about 2 hours, but I was filming it and I did have to re-record a piece of it. And so the other portion that took a while was hammering it into place, literally pushing it hard into place because this little section, as you can see here, didn't quite want to line up. So I'm not a skilled craftsman. This could take somebody a couple hours. Anybody can do it if I can do it. And so hope you enjoyed. If you like what you see, make sure to subscribe to me. See you next time.